it sort of looks a bit interesting, I think, is probably a nice way of putting it.
Can you tell us a bit more about the technology and the science behind it? How will it be suspended, or how will it orbit? How does that work?
So the idea, I think, well, I've read two different types of reports, so it's sort of not sure. It's hard to get the right information, but there seem to be two ideas. One is that it sits 500 kilometres above Earth, which is, I will get to that in a sec. The other one is 35,000 is the lowest it can sit. So there's one type of orbit that you can have at 500 kilometres above the Earth, and that is called a low Earth orbit. And that if at that altitude, it would go around the Earth in about an hour and a half. Right, so that's some of the reports I've read, which are, I mean, think about the energy you need to keep it there, instead of letting it go around the Earth in an hour and a half period. So the other option is that it gets put into a geostationary or geosynchronous orbit, which typically is around the equator for geostationary. We're looking at 35,000 kilometres up, generally, that's where it starts. And you think about trying to shine a beam of light onto a point on Earth, 80 kilometres diameter or wherever, or however big, from that distance, having a lot of control. You'd need to be able to control it to a tiny little angle. You're talking about using a lot of power up in space. Where does the power come from? Yeah. I'm assuming solar. And if we're going to use solar, why not put it just in the lights on Earth?
Well, perhaps you should put that to the Chinese government. They're actually aiming for 3 of these by 2022.
Yep.
Doable?
I mean, theoretically, maybe. Should we? Another question.
Okay, well, let's talk about the should we. How much is this saving the Chinese government in terms of energy costs?
Well, they anticipate, I think, about 240 million Australian per year. I guess my question is, in order to get it up in orbit, you're talking about a lot of money for fuel, you're talking about a carrier, you're talking about the actual science to put the technology in there, you're talking about upkeep, and the reality is, as soon as you want to put something in space, you could lose it all on the launch pad.
Right.
So how much are you risking? How much are you getting a reward here? Is it all just for the technology? Is it to say we did it? I don't know.
And also, how damaging could this possibly be to humans and also animals and birds who rely on the light and the pattern of the moon?
Absolutely, and plants as well. So our whole ecosystem, I mean, I'm a physicist, but I mean, we all know we have stories about things. So I look at solar eclipses, for example. The sun is gone for only a very short amount of time. Anecdotally, you have giraffes running around, you have orb-weaving spiders removing their webs in that short amount of time. So animals really do rely on the cycle of the sun and the moon. There are some birds, for example, that use the moon as mating, so they use it in their mating rituals. So basically, we're mucking around with an entire system, not just a couple of animals here and there. And an urban ecosystem is still an ecosystem. And I think it's very, very difficult to judge what's going to happen by changing something here. 24 hours of light is an enormous thing to do, really.
Yeah, it could be quite confusing for a lot of us down here.
Human beings. I mean, melatonin is one of the oldest hormones in mammals, and so they all use it. So it regulates all sorts of things. It regulates our sleep patterns. It regulates, so it tells animals when to mate, when to sleep, when to hunt. And you're talking about mucking up a lot of stuff there.
And it could actually worsen light pollution as well.
That's not great for people like me that like to see the stars. So, I mean, theoretically, Chengdu has a lot of light pollution as it is, they say, but I mean, you wouldn't be looking at the stars very much. But I think the human connection with the stars is actually really important, and with the moon. And if you're adding light pollution to an area that's already got a lot of light pollution, you're missing that connection with the natural world, which I think is really important.
Finally, a good idea or a bad idea, how would you sum this up? Actually, no, I wanted to ask you firstly, this is not the first time that an artificial moon has been floated. Russia has done this previously.
Tried, yep.
Tried. So should China perhaps learn from Russia's lesson? What do you think?
Well, so Russia got one up in space. It didn't last very long because as it deployed, it actually broke. And then that was in 93, and then in 99, it didn't leave the launch pad, so it failed to launch. So the ideas have been there for a long time. The fact that they just dropped it like that is an example, I guess, of how much money you can put into something and how quickly it can just be thrown away in 2 seconds. So economically, I'm not sure. I mean, theoretically possible. Economically, is it a good idea? I would hate to be the person that laughed and said no if they do it, but I'm willing to bet that 2 years is a bit short.
Okay, we'll wait and see. In 2 years' time, we'll have you back in the studio and we'll talk about it. Thanks so much for coming in tonight, Claire. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Claire Kenyon there. The latest innovations in defence technology have been put to the test as part of a major army operation in North Queensland. It's hoped the test and evaluation will equip soldiers with the greatest level of protection in the organisation's history. Take a look. Behind enemy lines. In the simulated battle, it's not long before the troops are hit again. In the face of enemy fire, crews work quickly, and in just minutes, the vehicle is towed to safety. The demonstration is part of the largest road test in Australian Army history.
This is a really important activity for Army. We're able to trial a number of capabilities, about 13 in total, that we're either just introduced into service or about to introduce into service.
The trial has been 6 months in the making and aims to put new innovations into the hands of soldiers. From this 44-metre dry support bridge to this almost toy-like Black Hornet 3 Nano, it's the first time all capabilities have been tested at once. Weighing in at 10 tonne with an estimated price tag of over $1 million, the Hawkeye vehicle turned heads. It's expected to provide soldiers with a level of protection never seen before, and it's certainly got the tick from drivers on the ground.
It's definitely proven pretty well off-road, considering the conditions that have been happening out here. It's quite wet and boggy.
Some innovations were a little less popular.
To be honest, not a fan of it, but it's a bit heavy. You see all the grunts rocking around, they have a lot lighter rigs. Bit envious of them.
This is just one of a number of trials being carried out to test the capability of the Hawkeye and how it works with other equipment. The Army intends on rolling out 1,100 of these from 2019.
It's a really important time that we take a pause and put it in the hands of the soldiers. So Army's true capability is at the soldiers, and we need to get that feedback from them to make sure the capability provided to them is what they need to do their job on.
The road test will continue next week in North Queensland before this new Army kit is put into action. Sally Rafferty, ABC News, Townsville. An ABC investigation has revealed that an organisation in charge of protecting the Great Barrier Reef altered a scientific report, removing criticism of one of its own programs. The original document slammed the Crown of Thorns starfish culling program, which the organisation is given millions of taxpayer dollars to carry out. The scientist who wrote the paper says he's shocked. Here's National Environment reporter Michael Slezak.
This is the latest mission in far north Queensland to kill the coral-eating Crown of Thorns starfish, part of a government-funded program costing millions of dollars. Much of that has gone to the Reef and Rainforest Research Centre, or RRRC. In 2014, it hired marine biologist Dr. Udo Engelhardt to review one of its programs.
Well, the report was, I could say, not received well because it was actually highly critical.
After agreeing to several changes, the scientist put his foot down.
I objected to making some of those major changes because they simply would have been misleading. They would have then included false statements that I could not have supported.
But the RRRC wasn't satisfied. In one email, seen by the ABC, sent to the head of the organisation, a staff member suggests several options, including
keep our changes and publish it with Udo's name and wear the wrath of Udo.
6 days later, the report was handed to government, but with changes that Dr. Engelhardt had refused to make. Comments were added suggesting that problems with the program had been fixed, and some of the most critical sentences had been removed.
Furthermore, the program has been operated without any concerns given to the inherent ecological risks of inadequate control measures.
It just absolutely throws me. I did not think that they would go down that particular track and actually manipulate a document. This is really disheartening to see.
Legal and governance experts have raised concerns.
If a body hands a document to the government which isn't true, then there's a range of laws they could be potentially breaking.
In my view, changing a report that's intended to inform the government could be interpreted as an attempt to deceive.
RRRC Managing Director Sheridan Morris says the report was handed to government with the understanding it was still under review and there was no conspiracy to hide information. Michael Slezak, ABC News.